I'm 55, Jim, and my son Matt is 25. We have had 3 experiences. I'm ex-military, 10 years, U.S. Air Force nuclear weapons technician, 463 with top secret clearance. Went on to work for Boeing and eventually did IT work for DOE in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. 30 years with the government. First experience around 2010. Was backwoods camping out by Angel Falls, Big South Fork, Tennessee. I was alone, estimate about 3 a.m. I was in a one-person low tent. I woke and was staring at nothing but the sound of my tent being shaken, 1 foot from my face, very angrily. I controlled my breathing as my heart was going up my throat. It was completely silent, and I never heard it walk away. It was basically a ghost. I had gotten that strange feeling something was watching me that day. I never considered Bigfoot or such during those years. Never considered Bigfoot was in Tennessee. I prayed it'd kill me by the neck if it was going to kill me and not drag me off, chewing on me. My mind rationed it was a mad bear or something. I fell back asleep, and that was the end of that. I didn't have a gun. Oops, I was lucky. Second experience was summer of 2018. My son and I were prospecting gold in Coker Creek, Tennessee, north of Chattanooga, Tennessee, to give you an idea of location. 2 significant things happened. 1, a herd ran through the camp, and 2, a bipedal creature ran by the creek. The 6th night we were awoken to hounds chasing something in the area. The sound of stomping feet getting louder and louder. A herd of something was coming. I have experience of what a herd can do. During Desert Storm, I was boar hunting in Balıkesir, Turkey. The Muslim community used pots and pans to run dozens of boars up the mountain towards us. I thought I was going to have to climb a tree. Of course, you could hear the ground, sticks cracking, and bushes shaking and all. I stared at the front of my tent, watching intensely, as I knew it was coming to run over me. Somehow, I think they used sound to terrorize us. As it got louder and louder, it was like beating drums. You could physically feel the pounding earth, very heavy. Same weight of bulls or cows. I was just sitting there waiting, watching, waiting and watching to die. In my mind, I was asking, where in the hell did a herd get loose in the woods? But it was also like drums beating. Louder and louder and closer and closer. There was no sound of sticks, leaves, snorting, or any ground noise. These things were heavy and solid, but I don't think they actually touched the ground. We joked and called them a ghost herd for a long time. They went through us like we were invisible. I guess they were in spirit. They never touched anything. It was all sound. Matt speculates he heard them running individually earlier across the creek and thought they eventually all got into step. He speculates there was about 10 Bigfoot running together. He heard more than I did. I had to get control of my breathing. Matt was looking out both sides of his trailer and saw nothing. During this time, we were both frozen in fear, shock, and confusion, and did not speak. Second part was the bipedal ran past us. We were probably 10 feet from the creek. Right after the ghost herd, I heard something running our way. Doosh, 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 and here it comes. Total time, 2 to 3 minutes. As it got closer, it got louder and so clear. It was not splashing or dredging water. The dogs were quiet at this time. Its stride was perfect and long. It jogged past us and slowly started fading as it ran up the creek. It was amazing because the creek was 3 foot or better in places, and it did not slow or miss a step. It was perfect and clearly large steps. It sounded like it was making 5-foot increments or better. This creek is easily up to my knees, I'm 6 feet, and better at places. We had spent 6 days prospecting this creek. It would have been twice my leg size to do what it did. It was an individual. My son speculates at one time 3 or 4 of them got into sync and also ran by and probably did. They are perfection creatures, highly intelligent and so smart. We are just dumbasses compared. At that point, I had to check to see if I was dreaming and confirm the bipedal. I said out my tent window to Matt, "Was that 2 feet?" Matt said, "Yeah, what about the herd?" I said, "Yeah, I heard that, but that was 2 feet, right?" "Yeah." I was so excited about how clear the bipedal runner was. I had finally in my life confirmed there are creatures that must be near 10 foot tall making that kind of stride, and it was so smooth. Super, super exciting. Everyone says bear, deer, etc. I know what I heard, and this was bipedal and strong and a giant. I did not imagine this. This entire event that night went on for an hour or more. At times, the dogs ran something up the creek, and you could hear the dogs dredging water. It was very clear. I felt they were playing with the dogs, but occasionally the dogs did get in trouble. The dogs had been chasing things every night that week, but this was the first night they ran it by us. At one point, we heard a dog get kicked and go silent. It had a hoof bark, and its air was knocked out. Then the silenced dog. We figured Bigfoot picked it up and covered its mouth, because we eventually heard it barking at the other end of the creek. There were 3 dogs, and one was the main one because it was much louder, and it was obviously catching up to them at times. This was fascinating as we sat on our beds, totally in fear and wonder. The next day we investigated and talked to a guest at a cabin a few hundred feet away, and they said they came out with guns that night and didn't know what the hell was going on. I did find where the dog and Bigfoot had that little scramble in the grass on a bank by the creek. The dog prints were there, but no other prints. No deer, bear, etc. There were no tracks. This was all done by ghosts? This area of Coker Creek was where the Cherokee Indians would camp for the summer, cool in the mountain. Teepees as far as you could see. So this place does have supernatural abilities, I guess. So that was a crazy experience. Third experience was July 2021, where we had put out trail cams for hobby. It had been 3 years since the Coker Creek experience, and we had already relaxed and forgotten what can happen in the woods. Was backwoods camping and had a fire and dinner and went to bed. About 3 a.m. went out to pee. On the way back, I seen red eyeshine. I did have a red light on. Entering the tent, I joked that something was watching us, and we laughed and went to sleep. I awoke to the top of the trees roaring as they were being shaken to hell. If I had tied a rope to the ball of my 4-wheel drive Chevy and tied it high on a tree, I could duplicate it. We burn wood for heat, so we live in the country on a farm, and we're not city slickers lost in the woods. We have worked with trees all our lives. It was that powerful, and not something you want to wake up to while sleeping in the woods. I woke Matt and said, "What is that?" He said, "Take out your earplugs." I said, "I don't want to." Joking, but I really did not want to believe what I was hearing. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm in another horror movie, but it's not a movie. The trees were being shaken very violently and threatening. It was about 20 feet away and lasted 4 to 5 minutes before going completely quiet. No sounds whatsoever. It was a new moon, so it was pitch dark. No sound of it moving in the trees. Nothing. This was the horrifying thing, when you're desperately trying to get information on something and it gives you nothing. And the creek nearby was also quiet, so they can turn off all the sounds somehow. I remember thanking God that my neck did not make any noise as I turned my neck. That's how freaked out I was. We did not move or speak. We posted 4 trail cams that day, and none of them were in our area, of course. At 55, this was the worst experience I have ever had. As I realized the terror, adrenaline, unknown in me was removing my strength to fight, I knew I had to stop fearing it, or it would give me a heart attack, or reduce my ability to fight. I did not have a gun. Matt had a .22 pistol. I had my headlight in my hand that I held ready to turn on. As I wait for this monster to jump on my tent at any second, I was resolved to see it before it killed me. I must see it. Maybe 20 minutes sitting staring into the dark and deaf by the quietness, another thing happens. Something slowly floats past our tent. It had no steps. It had a digital cricket sound. Tone was doot, 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 doot. 3 to 4 beeps, start, stop. Matt spoke under his breath. It's moving towards the camp, where we had a fire. I was effing done at that point. I heard it had a fire. I was effing done at that point. I heard it. What now? An alien? I knew I could not let it terrorize me anymore. I knew I had to maintain strength to fight it by hand if needed. I ignored it. When you're about to die, you learn to get real. I lay down, and if I heard myself breathe, I would wake up to make sure I had the headlight properly gripped, ready to turn it on. I laid there trying to figure if we could walk out back to back. Matt had his .22 pistol. I felt if we did not move, it had to make the first move. So we held our place. Here is some weird stuff. When the beeping thing floated by, Matt said it reached into him and tried to get him to vocalize. He felt it was vibrating his vocal cords for him. He was really messed with and tripping. He said he held his mouth tightly closed because he was afraid it was trying to get his location. Our tent was between two large rocks, so I think we were hidden. I did feel that they were looking for us. Matt also felt he was about to stop his own heart. He had stopped breathing completely and realized he better breathe. This was the amount of fear and terror it was pushing on us. It really pissed me off to realize it was that mean to us. It wanted us to die. So these things are not a joke or some fun hobby. You better be 100% in your spirit and beliefs if you want to go out at night with them. Also, you better be ready to die. If you have not had any near-death experiences, you better stay out of the woods at night. I have had 3 or more near-death moments. They help you accept death and therefore learn not to fear. Sometime later, the nightmares started to fade. Around daylight, a woodpecker spent all of an hour raising hell about something as it ran away. I knew we made it. When the morning light comes, it's like you're a reborn or something like that. This was far the most horrifying near-death experience I have ever had, and Matt thinks he almost died from fear. I think this was really his first real near-death experience. I've given you the basics of my experience. Matt and I both sat down and did the full story. If you can share a link to my stories, I would appreciate it. As you do warn people, do not go into the woods at night if you do not have heavy firepower, as I do believe they can easily kill you. We do visit the area during the day, and we are gifting in such as therapy. It is important that you learn how to get back into the woods. It is important that you get over your fears. I do believe we are human, light man. We are divine man. We are the only creature that has God code, signature in our DNA. Bigfoot and these 5D creatures can see the lights in us, our souls. If you are not spiritually alive, the light is dim. They don't mind killing a dead man. But they will back off the strong spirit man because it is right, and they know it. Stand, do not fear. They know you are divine, but if you don't know that, then you are food. Sorry for the truth, but that's how I see it. One side note. When we came back home, my wife said that we were white as a ghost for about 2 days. She had to walk around the house gingerly so she would not freak us out.